In The Telltale Heart, Edgar Allan Poe's narrator relates a grisly murder he is driven to commit, all the while proclaiming his own sanity. It is a chilling tale that demonstrates the devastating effects of madness upon the human psyche. One of the frontrunners of the modern short story, Edgar Allan Poe not only added greatly to the canon of the genre by penning several tales, he also immensely contributed to the concept of the purpose of what a short story should do. His philosophy of composition articulates that a writer must focus all his energy in order to produce a single intense response in the reader. This gives us an understanding not just of how he went about creating his own stories, but also what he thought about the art of writing. According to Walter Blair, as Professor James Southall Wilson remarked, by every process of verbal art, by choice of words, by the manner of his phrasing, by tone or atmosphere, by the incidents or details of the composition, by the central idea of the main theme, by the mystic suggestiveness, as he termed it, of an underlying meaning, in short, by all the objective means at his command, he produced a single impression upon the imagination of his readers. Poe has often been criticized for what many call sensationalism, and it's easy to see why. In his attempts to create a singular response or desired effect, he often uses events and situations that are extreme, even horrifying. In this tale, Poe goes into great detail, enlisting the reader's senses to describe a truly terrifying event. One hears the death watchers in the walls, can almost see the light emanating from the narrator's lantern onto the wakened evil eye. But is it merely sensationalism, or is there more motive to Poe's seeming madness? Element that gives Poe's stories a depth beyond sensationalism is his use of first-person narration. Through his narrator, the reader is given the ability to see and understand what goes on in the mind of a madman. For despite his adamant assertion to the contrary, it is certain the narrator is quite insane. In fact, his urgency in claiming sanity simply highlights his insanity. And in this we can see that Poe is distinct from his protagonist, for he would not be able to articulate the state of madness with such clarity if he himself were also mad. James Gargano states it well when he says, "The structure of many of Poe's stories clearly reveals an ironical and comprehensive intelligence, critically and artistically ordering events so as to establish a vision of life and character which the narrator's very inadequacies help to prove." One possible source of the narrator's madness is the torture he derives from what he considers the evil eye of his victim. The evil eye is a trope seen throughout folklore, and in this tale can be seen to represent an all-seeing presence, similar to the scrutiny given a child by a father figure. This might explain the protagonist's burning hatred for the eye and why he feels the need to extinguish it. It is definitely the eye, not the old man, that is the focus of the narrator's hatred. In fact, he claims to feel affection for his victim. It is only his eye that causes the problem. "I loved the old man," he states. "He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this." And what exactly is the relationship between the victim and the murderer? It is never clearly stated. They do live in the same house, and the narrator continually refers to him as the old man, so it is likely he is a father figure of some sort. They seem to have a close relationship, so much so that the narrator senses the old man's fear as if it were his own. This closeness inevitably causes a strong sense of guilt in the storyteller, driving him even further over the edge. Eventually, in an ironic twist typical of Poe's tales, it causes him to not only hear the titular heartbeat, but to confess his crime to those who have come to investigate. So, if Poe thinks the aim of the tale is to convey some sort of truth, what truth is Poe trying to get across in The Telltale Heart? Let's look at his use of tone to get an idea. Walter Blair tells us that Poe uses tone to reveal meaning in two different ways. First, it reveals emotion so that there can be no doubt of the author's personal opinions on the subject. Second, it may employ figures which hint at implications. So how does Poe use tone in The Telltale Heart? Let's take a closer look. If the narrator sets the tone, then the story can be said to have a feeling of excitement, anxiety, nervous agitation, even arrogance. However, we have already established that the author and the narrator are two distinct individuals. So what tone can we perceive from Poe himself? In his description of a man's descent into madness, there is certainly heartache and sorrow, wretchedness and misery. If the tone of the story is an indicator of the truth it seeks to tell, and we take Poe's tone as the overriding one, then the truth of The Telltale Heart becomes the understanding that madness is a heartbreaking illness that destroys loving relationships and ruins lives. Poe thought of the short story as a form of poetic prose, using not only tone but also imagery, the symbolism of the eye, metaphors such as vulture eye, and the distinct point of view of his narrator to reinforce his meaning and express the heartbreak of mental illness. All these elements work together to create his unity of effect and the desired response in his reader. So here are some questions for further discussion. What do you think Poe's desired effect was for The Telltale Heart? Was it simply to horrify? Was it to convey the meaning of heartbreak, of madness, or was it something else? And do you think he succeeded in achieving this effect? Do you find Edgar Allan Poe to be merely a sensationalist, as many of his critics have argued, or do you think they judged him unfairly? Do you think there is more to his tales than mere thrills and chills? What did you think of the ending? Did you find the ending of the story satisfactory? I personally thought it was a little bit rushed. Did you think it was rushed, or was it in line with the pacing for the rest of the story? Why do you think Poe might have written it this way? What other possible symbolic meaning could there be to the eye? I gave you one, but there could be others. What other instances of symbolism do you see in the story?